Once upon a time, in a small, picturesque village nestled between rolling hills and a shimmering lake, there lived two souls whose hearts were destined to intertwine, yet fated to break. This is the story of Alara and Kale, a tale of love so profound that even the stars above wept for them. Alara was the daughter of the village baker, her hands always dusted with flour, her laughter as warm as the bread she baked. She had a heart as vast as the ocean, and her eyes held the kind of kindness that could soothe even the weariest of souls. Every morning, she would rise before the sun, her footsteps light as she made her way to the bakery, where the scent of cinnamon and honey filled the air. Kale, on the other hand, was a wanderer. He had arrived in the village one stormy night, his cloak drenched, his eyes shadowed with secrets. He was a painter, a dreamer, a man who carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. The villagers whispered about him, curious about the man who seemed to have no past and no future. But Alara saw something in him that others did not, a flicker of light, a spark of hope buried beneath the layers of his sorrow. Their paths crossed one fateful morning. Kale had been drawn to the bakery by the scent of freshly baked bread, and there she was, Alara, her cheeks flushed from the heat of the oven, her smile radiant. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a connection that neither could explain. Days turned into weeks, and Kale found himself returning to the bakery, not for the bread, but for her. They would talk for hours, sharing stories, dreams, and fears. Alara learned of Kale's travels, of the places he had seen, and the pain he carried. Kale, in turn, was captivated by Alara's warmth, her unwavering optimism, and the way she made him feel as though he belonged. As the seasons changed, so did their hearts. Love blossomed between them, tender and fragile, like the first bloom of spring. They would spend their evenings by the lake, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Kale would sketch her, capturing the essence of her beauty, while Alara would weave stories of their future, a future filled with laughter and love. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. One evening, as they sat by the lake, Kale received a letter. His hands trembled as he read the words, his face pale. Alara reached out to him, her heart pounding with fear. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Kale looked at her, his eyes filled with anguish. "I must leave," he said, his voice breaking. "My past has caught up with me, and I cannot stay." Alara's world shattered. "No," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "You can't leave. We can face this together." But Kale shook his head, his own tears falling. "I cannot put you in danger. I love you too much to risk your life." And so, with a heavy heart, Kale left the village, leaving behind the only person who had ever truly understood him. Alara was left with nothing but memories, and the ache of a love that had been torn away. Days turned into months, and Alara tried to move on, but her heart remained with Kale. She would often find herself by the lake, staring at the horizon, hoping against hope that he would return. He never did. Years passed, and the village changed, but Alara's love for Kale remained steadfast. She never married, never found another who could fill the void he had left. And then, one cold winter's night, as the snow fell softly outside, Alara closed her eyes for the last time, her heart still yearning for the man she had loved and lost. Unbeknownst to her, Kale had returned to the village that very night. He had spent years trying to outrun his past, but his heart had always led him back to her. When he learned of her passing, he fell to his knees, his soul consumed by grief. He spent the rest of his days by the lake, painting her face over and over again, trying to capture the essence of the woman who had given him everything. And when his time came, he was buried beside her, their graves marked by a single tree that grew from the earth, its branches intertwined, just as their hearts had been. And so, their love story became legend, a tale of two souls who had found each other in a world that sought to tear them apart. Though their time together was brief, their love was eternal, a beacon of light that would shine through the ages, a reminder that even in the face of sorrow, love endures.